So break time is over. It's CL. Y'all know what time? Them other guys ain't got no style. We know what's up before we go down. This is the rundown. This is the rundown. If you ain't know the deal, I bet you know now. This is the fans' voice. You hear them vocab. This what the people need and what they want now. This is the rundown. This is the rundown. If you ain't know the deal, I bet you know now. This is the rundown. This is the rundown. This is the rundown. And if you ain't know the deal, I bet you know now. Yeah. Hey, what's happening? What up, though? It's your homie C, and we back live on the Rundown South podcast. Gotta know that. And I'd like to thank y'all for joining me. However you're joining me, I do appreciate it. Hopefully you came through from therundown.com, or maybe you came through from facebook.com, or maybe from youtube.com, because you know why? Because we doing this podcast live. And yes, it has been quite a long time since I did one of these, so I'm hoping everything sounds according to plan. There are a lot of preparation, a lot of things to make sure that things was just right for you guys. And I do have a very special guest on the line, as you can see on the screen if you're watching this live. We have the Couch Coach. See, man, you giving me tongue twisters?
It's all it's a words, man.
it's like I'm working hard already. So introduce yourself, Chris, real quick, and
all right,
we can get into the podcast.
All right, what's going on, everybody? My name is Couch Coach. I am the host of the Couch Coach Live podcast.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. So do I have to call you Couch Coach, or can I call you Chris?
Man, he called me Chris, Couch
Okay.
Coach, whatever. Yeah, it's all good.
Cause I got your name on the screen. It's Chris Couch Coach.
Yeah.
Powell. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna call you Chris so I can save myself.
All right, cool. That's all good.
I appreciate you taking me that one nicety. But
yeah.
You know, everybody that's watching this knows that I have a podcast, of course, and this is not the first time I'm doing one. So before I get into where I have been for a minute, man, I want to give people the chance to get to know you real quick. So tell them a little bit about your podcast.
So, of course, Couch Coach Live podcast. Me and my homeboy Maui. Government name is Deshaun, but so we just two homeboys just talking about sports from like a couch coach perspective. We give you like taste that's pretty much original. It ain't like, stuff that you would hear like on like, the first takes of the world, the undisputed. We just, we keep it real in a couch coach perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can respect that, and I definitely did that because, that's kind of, how the rundown was started. Me and a homie of mine, we kept having these, couch armchair quarterback conversations, and, one thing led to another. And it's like, man, we need to go ahead and start recording this stuff.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I can definitely relate to that origin story. That speaks to my heart right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's pretty dope. Now, like, I haven't been on the scene for like 9 months, as I was telling some of the live viewers before we got started. And of course, like in the last, 4 months, has it been 4 months? Has it been 3 months? How long we been on lockdown? I don't even know anymore. Like, I'm losing track of time.
Well, 2 theoretically. I think in March was a 5th.
Okay, yeah, it was March. Like, it just seems like it's been all year.
I know, right? Yeah.
But yeah, man. So, of course, you being a sports podcaster, man, like, you've had no sports. So of course tonight we're gonna talk about The Last Dance. But other than that, man, it was like how did you feel when you got the draft?
Actually, you know what? I love the draft. I love the NFL. If you're talking about the NFL draft, correct?
Yeah, the NFL draft. So
I
like,
liked it. Yeah, and it was cool. Like it being virtual, and it's funny. It's like getting that inside look of like how coaches live, how the general managers, guys, though seeing like the kind of behind the scenes of that versus. And I thought that was cool. I think the whole thing. I do miss the pomp and circumstance, of course, because everything that was going on with the Las Vegas situation, where they were gonna have these guys coming on a boat coming in entrance of the Bellagio. I was like, oh man, that'd be kind of cool to see, but obviously that didn't happen. But they did a great job with it. And then what was interesting about that draft, the later rounds were more intriguing, more so than anything. I thought the first round was kind of like long out, drugged out. I mean, that was to like midnight, and that round shouldn't have lasted 4 hours. But the Saturday, Friday night and Saturday were like they were great. I mean, they were pictures just coming that quickly, and it's just like you get that quick analysis. I loved it.
Okay, so for me as somebody who is, I guess you could say I'm a hardcore sports fan because I really don't watch too much anything else on TV. When sports is in season, I was into the draft probably for the first night, but then after that, I was kind of like, you can keep that, like, because I'm just not big on the draft. Like my man said, it's like a really big HR meeting. Like, so so like it's a whole lot, but it's still some things that happen. Of course, like the whole Green Bay Packers taking the quarterback in the first round. Like, that was a thing. I can't believe we didn't talk about that for 3 days. But yeah, man, that being under lockdown under this, COVID, quarantine period for sports it's been different. But you know what? I'm just finding more TV shows to watch.
Yeah.
Honestly. But I know if anybody else has been wondering, I've basically been just trying to work on making my ends meet. Like, surprise, you be having bills out here. Like, just keep it 100% real. But no, like, real talk, I have some real big projects I have been working on and really had to let my podcast go. And I hated how I felt, and it never felt like the right time to come back. But you're part of the same group that I'm in, and I'm trying to get more active in helping people. So I was like, you know what? Got to come back out here and get in the podcast game.
Yep.
Game needs me. I felt like Jordan,
Facts.
Coming back after the 3-peat. I can't say I got rings to show for it, but I'm back for my position. Now, of course, I brought you in to talk about The Last Dance, the 10-part documentary from ESPN. Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls, Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson, Jerry Krause, all the big names were there. Is there anything from the last couple episodes, or even, I guess, like the whole series and all that, was like a big takeaway from you? Anything that you didn't know, or stuff that you forgot about? Like, I don't know, man. Just give me kind of like your view when you just sit back and think about it after we get through all 10 episodes.
Yeah, I think the thing that really stood out to me was Dennis Rodman. Okay. And it's funny because I think at that time, following this team, I was a teenager. I was, essentially the last championship, I was 13 years old. and I always used to be the guy. I mean, I would watch the games, I would read the trash Sports Illustrated, and you know how they would always say like Dennis is a distraction, this and the third. But you really realize in this documentary, and then just how much of a savant he was in the game, where he knew how guys shot would have been and how it falls off the rim. Like, so he'll know he's in position.
Right.
So then you think to yourself, and you remember back in the day where you're like, it felt like Dennis knew where the ball was going. And it's funny when you put those two together and you're like, that's why. You know, when you look at it from that grand scheme of things, Dennis was a guy like you looked at him as a guy, you know, he was like people deemed as a distraction, but he was on point. Like Jordan even said to himself, the whole situation after the Las Vegas situation, they were running sprints. Rodman was catching up with, you know, he was supposed to be the one that was supposed to be lagging behind, but Dennis was head and shoulders above those guys who was, you know, he was just coming off of being in Vegas.
Right, man. And you know, Dennis was a different type of cat, and probably because I had already watched the Dennis Rodman 30 for 30 kind of recently, I was a little bit more in tune with what his story was. So I ain't gonna say it was a waste of episode, considering that, but it was something that I felt like it. I'm not sure if it held enough importance for a whole episode. I almost felt like they could have did Dennis like they did Kurt, where they kind of like threw him in for like half an episode. But, you know, it does get a couple shots of Carmen Electra in. We'll go ahead and like just call that a win. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll just take that. But I feel you though, man. Like he was definitely a scientist when it came to rebounding the basketball. It's something that I never really considered. You know, it just seemed like he was just good at it. But, you know, the separation's in the preparation. So, whenever you're, you know, passionate or gifted with something, you work at it, that's kind of what you get. And he knew if he specialized, he could do that. So, I applaud him for that. And that's something that, like, I try to apply actually in my everyday life. So,
who you telling me?
I'm trying to get there, man. So, you know, the worm is a little inspiring, man. Get like the worm. Exactly. Tell that to your kids.
Exactly.
But man, yeah, so that's a great point. Now for me, I want to say one of the things that I kind of that got to me was the fact that when he punched Steve Kerr was the one that swung first.
Right.
That right there put a lot of things in perspective. Not only about Michael Jordan, but Steve Kerr. Like, I felt a different way about Steve Kerr after that interview, because if you willing to swing on Michael Jordan, that means you don't really have too much back down.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I feel like I get it now. You know, he's not just a guy. Like, you know, when he's coaching the Warriors, it's not just the fact that he brought in the system and he has Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. You know, Mark Jackson had them. So it's clearly not the same. So there's something that he's bringing to the table that is very much so intangible that I can feel from that. Yeah. So, yeah, man. Anything else you want to add on that?
Yeah, most definitely. And you look at it from the standpoint, you think about it. You as a guy that's unproven, you go into a practice and you punch Michael Jordan in the chest. Nine times out of 10, that would be career suicide. Like, he would have been gone out of the league if generally you would have thought like, damn, if you hit MJ in the chest, and you done in this town. but it shows you what Steve Kerr is made of. Like you said, people looked at him as like, oh yeah, he's a little short, frail guy. No, he's about that life. And it goes like you said about coaching. And another thing too, you really realize how important Phil Jackson really was to this team.
Right.
He was essentially the glue for this team. You think about managing those type of personalities and having them to play as one. And I think that's one thing too. I think when people, when they say, like, I almost in Steve Kerr's defense as well, where, oh, if you had these kind of guys, anybody can coach them. No, that's not true.
No,
Coaching is everything. And like he put these guys in great positions. And in essence, he really helped develop Michael Jordan's game, after Doug Collins left. When you looked at him as, I won't say like an ISO kind of guy, but essentially he was. And he learned how to trust teammates at a time when he frowned upon it. But he believed in the system with Phil, and he trusted teammates. Like in the Lakers series, he was like, well, who's open? Paxson's open. Paxson hits shots in Game 5, leads him to that Game 5 victory. Right. We all know, 93, Paxson hits that shot. Now, other guys have hit other shots, Steve Kerr in 97. But it just lets you know, like, he turned a guy who essentially was frowned his nose, because I remember one time he was saying about the situation with Bill Cartwright. He was like, why would I have him have the ball with 5 minutes in the shot clock? Like, hell no. But he trusted Phil with that. And that's very hard to get a guy to trust you in that kind of regard.
Right. And, it seemed like Jordan was to the point where after, like, I guess, like, around the time when he wanted to win championships, like, I'm not going to say wanted to win championships, but begin to win championships, it seemed like he just wanted certain type of people around him. It didn't seem like it was, and I'm going to give Jerry Krause just a little bit of a shout out, because knowing who you had as Michael Jordan and having to piece the right type of people around him and knowing who was going to work with Michael Jordan and who wasn't, because you had to work around Michael Jordan. You didn't really have too much of a choice.
Yeah.
And for him to just not have a lot of issues with people, it shows that, like, either he got extremely lucky or he had a good post on personality, kind of like the thing that Daryl Morey sometimes lacks when it comes to putting a team together. Yeah. If you look at the Rockets, like that season when they had Dwight there wasn't really like a grown up in the room.
Right.
Like everybody was at the strip club. You can't have that on the team.
Exactly.
So yeah, man, that's something that's real important. Now, I want to throw something at you real quick.
All right.
So, the last time we seen Jordan was what? Are we gonna count the Wizards?
As a Bulls fan,
Oh, you are a Bulls fan? I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even now, even thick and thin. Yes. Yeah, I was a big fan of the Baby Bulls and D Rose era, and now I guess the rebuilding era.
I'm about to say, who y'all rocking with now? You got Zach LaVine?
You got Zach LaVine.
Okay.
Kobe White. He started kind of in this way, like he was coming of age as the league was suspended. He's coming along. Wendell Carter. He's on the precipice of a double-double. I mean, he's getting his own. He's 20 years old.
It's like it just seemed like so long ago since I seen the NBA. Like just trying to remember like who's on the Bulls.
I know.
Like
right.
I wasn't 100% sure.
Right. But it's been a while.
But you saying like as a Bulls fan, you just like at 98, that's when it stops for you.
MJ, yeah, the Wizards thing. I don't know the Wizards thing. I was excited for him to come back. I'm not gonna be real with you. I was excited
Okay.
that he was coming back. Just to for the last hurrah. But I mean, he kind of count. I mean, I guess.
All right. So let's just say Michael Jordan been out of basketball for 20 years. And the closest thing we had to him before was probably Kobe. Is that we could agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And since Kobe, who didn't have that much time as the best player in the NBA,
Yeah.
we had LeBron.
Yeah.
And I want to say LeBron is the first time when we ever really questioned whether or not Michael Jordan was the undisputed best player of all time. Like, it was up for consideration, and a lot of people barked back. Like, of course, I know you as a Bulls fan, I could imagine how that makes you feel just hearing people say that. But, like, honestly, has it gotten to the point where we can have the discussion? And has this doc swayed you either way?
I think what it is, and I look at it like this. I think Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. That does not negate what LeBron has done. What LeBron has done, Jordan had the baton, and LeBron ran with it. He's doing a lot of stuff now, as far as he's changed the game in his way, and Jordan changed the game in his way. So a part of me, I don't like the comparisons, especially after Kobe's passed away. I don't like doing that type of stuff because I think it's stupid. Because somebody showed me a meme, LeBron winning the ring without Wade, Kobe winning one without Shaq, and then Jordan without Pippen. But I'm like, you gotta think to yourself, that doesn't even make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
It's because at the end of the right, because at the end of the day, I can make a bunch of excuses. Because I can say, hey, well, LeBron won a ring with a Kevin Love and a Kyrie Irving, and then Kobe won one with a Pau Gasol and Lamar Odom. So I'm like,
it's like you're just making the point that you need multiple All-Stars on the championship team. Like,
and then my thing, and then what kills me is people just negate the 90s because people keep on saying, well, Jordan didn't play with no, like Robert Parrish, out of all people, came out and said, well, he didn't play against good competition. I tell people, look at that 1997 All-Star game when they had the top 50 players. He went against most of those guys. He went against Karl Malone, John Stockton.
Yeah.
He went against Charles Barkley. And we even talk about the postseason. We can talk about he went against Shaq in the Orlando series. He went against guys who were in their primes, and they were considered the top 50 basketball players of all time. A league that started in 1947. And the majority of those guys that made that list were current players, and at that point were in their prime of their career. So you mean to tell me if there's another list between, I guess, players that were, I don't know, maybe from 2000 to present, so the top 20 players in the league, and it's not to disgrace LeBron, but in all honesty, as far as Eastern Conference wise, the only player who he has played against was Paul Pierce, in my personal opinion.
Really?
I mean, as far as Eastern Conference, I'm talking about like as far as in essence their prime. Of course, that Celtics team.
Okay.
Because I don't really like Kevin Garnett. He was already kind of he was,
So are you saying that that's the only ones he beat? What about the Pistons?
Oh well, yeah, but you got to think about that Pistons team. That was 07. That team already was like, I mean, even though they were 4 All-Stars.
Well, LeBron was going to the Eastern Conference
But that's
Finals
what I'm
against
saying.
them. Like that.
And that's the thing where, and that's another thing where it's like it's not like I don't like about these arguments, because I'm thinking to myself, either or. Because like you said, you can make a case for both. Like you said, LeBron went to the NBA Finals at 22 years old. Like, you gotta really sit down and think about it. That's an impressive feat. He led the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers. They won a championship. Like, that's counted as 2 championships.
That is a feat within itself. Like,
right.
That is very impressive, sir. You are one of a kind.
And I tell the people this too.
You are.
You really gotta realize, and we gotta sit down and think to yourself, LeBron James is a child star. And he's lived up to the hype. You cannot ignore that. You can, and I hate to say this. I think it was a Slam article. It was him and Sebastian Telefeld. And I know this is horrible timing. This is horrible timing with everything going on with his mother and his brother passing, and my sincere condolences. But those two were supposed to be the two that were supposed to lead this new era, and only one person to the hype. So you really got to sit down and think to yourself, what LeBron James has done is tremendous. There's no question what he has done and the impact he has on this league.
No doubt. But, I think what I'm able to take away is I'm able to just put the conversation in much more perspective.
Yeah.
This doc helps bring some context around the fact that LeBron may be the greatest basketball mind ever.
Yeah.
Because the fact that he does not have the benefit of a Phil Jackson and the amount of know-how that he brings to the team, like, even though he has Tyronn Lue is not Phil Jackson.
Correct.
I don't care how many years he assistant coached and learned under the man and learned the triangle. I don't care. He not him. He not that guy. With that said, LeBron does not have that coach, nor does he have those, I guess, like bona fide Hall of Famers. I mean, of course, we had D Wade. D Wade is a bona fide Hall of Famer, but it wasn't Hall of Fame D Wade. Like, we seen Hall of Fame D Wade with Shaq.
Mm-hmm.
This was just great D Wade. But nonetheless, like, I feel like I can see the differences. And to me, it's real close. It's real close. I'm just going to put that out there. Not to just turn this into a whole LeBron versus Michael Jordan thing. But it's definitely real close. Now, going forward, we don't know what's going to happen. NBA season kickback. I felt like LeBron was on his way to another one. And it was going to make the conversation even a little bit more juicier. And so, maybe Jordan felt like it was just time. Because if he dropped this doc right when LeBron wins his, fourth championship.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be like, hey, LeBron looks good, but don't forget about me. Like, it would have been right on time. And it would have felt petty. Like, even, like, not on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and a lot of it too is just it's incomplete because LeBron can run off 3 out the next 4 years and he can be tied with MJ. That's what I'm saying. That's why part of me is like, it's hard to compare a guy who's already has played and did his thing to a guy who's still evolving. He's 35 years old and playing at such a high level, and it's shocking to be because a part of you always think like, well, Father Time go hit him, and I kept on saying that for years, and now it's
Man,
just
him
like
and Tom
no,
Brady, man. I'm
right,
like, when y'all niggas gonna get old?
exactly, and they're not like, which is crazy. They define the odds.
But continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You was making a great point. My bad.
But yeah, they keep defying the odds, and I mean, like you said, part of me, but they're great in their own right, and I think the biggest thing with LeBron is he's kind of done it organically. He really hasn't had a great supporting cast as far as coaches and stuff like that. Like we understand now why he went to Miami.
Right.
The structure, it made sense. Versus being in Cleveland where everything just shuffled the deck. I think they got rid of Danny Ferry,
Hey, man,
which I thought that was a stupid. Yeah.
Like, don't never forget that Shaq came in there limping and said,
Right.
"I'm gonna help LeBron get a championship," and they thought that was a good idea.
And it failed. All of it. It's just funny, like him, like that. Then he went to Boston, like in 2011. I'm like, dude, like it's starting to get embarrassing.
Yeah, man. I feel for LeBron, and I feel like I give him more credit for the fact that I saw you trying your hardest and you just couldn't make it happen. And it wasn't the same for Michael. Now, whether or not that is something that speaks to who Michael Jordan is a whole different conversation.
Right.
But just knowing what it takes to just pull something to be more than the sum of his parts. It's like I give him so much credit for like the failures.
Right.
And it feels weird for me to do that because we're talking about an all-time winner in Michael Jordan.
Right. And that's why it's like you, like you were saying, you can make the argument for both. Which that's why part of me is like, I mean, yeah, granted, like I said earlier, he went to the NBA in his fifth year. Well, fourth year, because yeah, he came in 03. And then Jordan didn't get to his finals until he was in his seventh year. So that's why a part of me is just like, I just say respect each other's time period. Like what Jordan did in the 80s and 90s, unmatched. What LeBron is doing, pretty much, I mean, from 84 to 03, that's Jordan era. I just say respect both of them.
Right.
Because both have done things that are impressive. Stuff that we didn't think could happen.
Yeah, man. They are one of a kind, man.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going for a little bit. So I am going to do something a little bit different that I don't normally do on the live broadcast because, well, I don't do live broadcasts. We're going to take a break.
Okay.
So when we get back, I'm going to lay my retirement theory on you. And I feel, I'm not going to say excited because excited would be the wrong word, but I am very curious to see what you think of my retirement theory for Michael Jordan's first retirement.
Okay.
I feel like nobody is connecting the dots, and if you look closely, it makes all the sense in the world. So I'm gonna talk about that when we come back. More on the Rundown South.
All right.
Blazing on the track, boy.
Release this beat today.
Blazing on the track, boy.
Release this beat today.
Blazing on the track, boy.
All right, we are back. This is a Rundown South, man, and we are doing new things. As you can see, we are going live, and I'm really just glad to have the homie Chris CouchCoach Powell on the line, man. You've been enjoying being on the podcast so far,
Yes, indeed.
and I appreciate you giving you your time over here, man. So we are talking about The Last Dance, the 10-part documentary series that ESPN put out. You know, we didn't spend the last 5 weeks talking about it because, you know, we ain't had no sports to
Right.
talk about. So every sports fan needs some content. Every sports blog needs some content. Everybody needs some content. And so we're not going to pass on it. You know, it's just what it is. And of course, I have some things that I need to get off my chest when it came to Michael Jordan, because, you know, I don't do a good job of making sure I get all of my great original thoughts out in a timely manner. And I was just explaining to Chris that I had wrote a blog post about Michael Jordan's retirement and my theory on why he retired in the year 1993. So, before I get into my theory, how old are you, Chris?
35.
You are 35, so you are alive and well in 93.
Yes.
So you can remember what it was like when Michael Jordan retired. So put me in your shoes, because I don't really remember that. I was born in '89. I was a little bit of a young buck.
And what was funny, because I really didn't get into sports until about like 9, 10-ish, like 94. But of course, Michael Jordan retiring was like by far like one of the biggest stories in 93. I mean, when you sit down and think about it, that's the only thing I really remember about that year, essentially. The shock that everybody was, God, Michael Jordan retiring at 30 years old, like that's unheard of. That's unfathomable. Like, it was like, where were you when you found the news? And, it was almost like, I wouldn't really, that's probably as far as from a retirement standpoint, like, was like really like shocking. Like, where were you when on October the 6th, 1993, when Jordan made this, retired? And I remember and it's funny how they bought it in the documentary, where it's like, just really realize to kind of give you the grasp of how crazy it was. Like, you even seen people in these rooms and groups, the little girl crying. Like, I mean, it was that serious. Like, I mean, it was almost, I hate to put these two together. It was almost just as big as the verdict in the O.J. Simpson trial, where it was huge.
No, I get it, man.
Yeah.
Like, I seen the amount of press that was in that room that day.
Right.
And, like, it's like no other, person that I could think of would garner that much attention. Especially because it was so sudden, and like they highlighted in the film, it was right before training camp.
Yeah.
So it's like it couldn't have came at a worse time. But man, so when you heard about it, and I guess like after the couple weeks in, like, what was the feeling like you felt was the why behind him retiring?
I think initially was his father passing away.
Okay.
I think like a lot of people were like looking at it from a situation where it's like, he lost the motivation. And that's another thing where the documentary kind of shows you pretty much the brain of Jordan, where in essence, when he's done, he's done. Like, when he doesn't have a mental edge, not a mental edge, but more so of a chip on the shoulder, he can walk away gracefully. But I think initially it was because his father passing away. Because you think about it, it happened essentially when you sit down and think about it, 2 months. I mean, not even less than 2 months. He found his father's body like at the end in August of '93. And then just, that's just something and then essentially it was always on his mind, but that kind of helped, I think, in essence, in my personal opinion at the time, was to help elevate that process.
Right. So, the doc did kind of connect it, and they talked about, the way the media kind of freaked out and tried to connect it to something with gambling. But I sat back and I look at Michael Jordan as somebody who is super duper competitive, and it's really hard for me to just sit here and be like, man, that just made him quit. Like, I felt like you might need some time off, but that don't make you quit. And one of the things that I've heard from people like Bill Simmons is that he didn't have anyone to chase, or he didn't have a challenge.
Yeah.
And, that, of course, that comes off him, going up against Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, the Bad Boy Pistons. Then you get into who he won the championships against. takes down Clyde Drexler. You know, everybody was saying that was supposed to be somebody that was close to MJ. She said not even. You know, he took down Charles Barkley in the finals. They were saying that he was one of the best, and he was. So once you take them down, you won 3 in a row, something that Magic and Bird never did. It's like, what else can you do on a basketball court? And it's not a lot.
True.
And so I feel like baseball was very strategic as what he was going to do next, because Michael Jordan, being as competitive as he is, wanted to not only be the best basketball player, but he definitely saw that the shining on being the best athlete could bring him, because he was at one level. And if you take a look at the timeline and you look at what Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders were doing in the late 80s, early 90s, I could see where Michael Jordan says, if I could be great at baseball, I could literally be the greatest athlete of all time. And so I got some notes here. But before I go into my notes, what you think about that theory?
That's interesting because, like you said, that was another thing that he wanted to climb. Because I never knew about his dogged pursuit of trying to get a three-peat, because he's like, well, you know, Magic never done it, Bird never done it, Isaiah never done it. They went back to back, but no one ever went three-peat. And then that was achieved. And then what was going to be next? Like, was he really striving for the 4P? Or like you said, and that makes a good point, because we talked about the motivation, you know, his father passing away and he just didn't have a drive for the sport. But that is a compelling argument, because like you said, now you've reached the heights of your peers. Now it's time to go to the next realm where you're like, okay, well, I want to be known as the greatest athlete. I don't want to just be known as a NBA superstar that's won 3 rings. I want to be the next. Like, cause think about it, because Deion at that time, he was playing baseball and football for the Falcons and the Braves, and actually was somewhat of a decent contributor to those Brave teams. You know, especially in that playoff series.
Right.
What was it? Yeah.
Wait till I lay this on you, because it's you gonna feel some type of way when I lay it out. All right. So we went over what Jordan was doing in the late 80s, early 90s. So let's talk about what Bo Jackson was doing. All right. Mm-hmm. So drafted Los Angeles Raiders from 87 to 90. Goes to a Pro Bowl in 1990. Plays for 3 major league teams from 86 to 94. Wins All-Star Game MVP in 89. And plays 2 years with, the Chicago White Sox in 91 and 93. Now, Deion Sanders plays in Major League Baseball from 89 to 2001, and plays in the NFL from 89 to 2005. Now, of course, we know Deion is the original mercenary, so trying to put the amount of teams on there is, we're not even gonna talk about that. That's like that's just not what Deion was about. Excuse me. But nonetheless, during both of those times, Deion has the week where he hits a home run and scores a touchdown in the same week. That was the week of September 5th. And they are showing to be the absolute specimen. Now, there is a scenario where if Bo Jackson doesn't get hurt in 92, that there could have been a Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders World Series, because Deion went to the World Series and the Chicago White Sox lost in 6. So there was a chance that it could have happened. And it being right there in Michael Jordan's backyard. You don't think he noticed that?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, because, you know, the Chicago Bulls owner also owns the Chicago White Sox. You don't think he's impressed by Bo Jackson? Like, I don't feel like there's excuse me, let me say that over. I feel like the connection should have been made stronger just on the surface, because we know how jealous Mike is of anybody doing things great. Like, you just can't be great around Mike. Mike got to one up you every time. Just imagine him going into the White Sox and seeing Bo Jackson. It's like, you know what? I'm about to play baseball. You ain't finna be the only one out here rocking 2 sports. I'm Michael Jordan.
Crazy.
Hey, man. I'm just throwing it out there.
And that's funny when you bring it up, like, because that's crazy, where that could have been an angle. But of course, you know, yeah, because like you said, that would have been the next level to prove, like, hey, I am by far the greatest athlete of all time. Not just basketball, but of all time. Athlete.
It's a whole nother level. And it just makes too much sense to somebody like me who admires Michael Jordan for his spirit of competition. Like, what's the real point of you playing baseball? Like, Michael Jordan could have went and did anything else, but he said it was because his dad wanted to see him play baseball. Mm-hmm. And I think that's cool, but you know what I feel like? I feel like he's saying that because he ain't make it to the major leagues. He wasn't out the box to the major leagues like Bo and Deion was. They were drafted out of college playing baseball.
Yeah.
And he was a total bust. So,
well, I ain't gonna say that.
You know what I'm saying?
We gotta really think about it. He played at 30. So, He was 31. So, yeah, I mean, he was 31. So, I mean, the game kind of passed him by, even though he played pretty well. For somebody who hasn't played baseball in almost like 15 years at that point.
I'll give him that, because if I went out there and tried to play baseball, I'm 30 right now.
It's right.
You know, I probably hit like, 178. For a little bit. I got my legs back. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's muscle memory. Mm-hmm. It'll come back eventually. But point being, I don't feel like it was a total success in Michael Jordan's eyes. So because it was not, he will not cop to the fact that he was chasing them. Because had he done it and, let's say, got a home run or something like that, he didn't even have to win a championship. He probably just wanted to hit a home run and probably would have retired the next day. Like, I just feel like Michael Jordan is that petty. Like, that's all I wanted to do. Just show you I can do it.
He showed him.
But, man.
He showed him, but
he tried it. He
tried it, hey. Yep.
But that's just me. That's just my theory. That's how I feel. Like, I feel like that's an angle that it isn't talked about enough. Just because for whatever reason, is just overlooked. I really can't put my finger on why it never comes up, but honestly, man, that's just how my theory, because I didn't like the gambling theory. I didn't like the secret double suspension or double secret suspension. Like, that was trash.
Yeah, because you're not going to suspend a guy who is 30 years old that's in his prime for 18 months. You're just not. I'm telling you, like
Yeah.
that just would not make the league, especially coming off the heels of the Dream Team. That just wouldn't make sense.
Nah, man, I just couldn't buy
Yeah,
that.
I didn't like that either.
So it's like it. I guess that's what drove me to start looking for alternate, answers before this documentary came out. Of course, this is something that I've been talking about since I've been doing podcasting. So it had to be like within the last 5 years, me coming up with that theory. But yeah, man. I don't know, man. So I guess we'll take a quick little break, man. How much time you got left? I know it's getting a little late. I ain't wanna.
Yes, huh?
I say you got time for another little quick
Yeah,
segment.
we're doing a quick segment. Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, all right. We're gonna take a quick break and then we're gonna come back and maybe just talk a little bit about podcasts and then we're gonna get up out of here, man. I appreciate y'all watching out there on Facebook, Periscope. I would say Instagram, but Instagram don't like you to do nothing live on the computer. So you know what? Whatever, Instagram. We don't like it right now. We be back. This the rundown. Let's see if we're gonna do it right. Oh, look at that with the transition. See, I'm gonna have the music on there next time, but I wanted to have the video come in before you see me, and guess what? It did it. Oh, look at that. I'm fancy. Now, we back in the building with the homie Chris, the coach, coach. See, I messed it up. I was messing around and then I messed up for real.
Right. See, that's what happens, man.
Oh man. But yeah, I'm here with the Couch Coach, and we're talking about Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary. I was trying to have a little roundtable discussion with a few people, but you know, things happen. Shout out to my homie Doug. He was supposed to be here from the NHF podcast. I kind of like what them dudes do, man. I get y'all to listen, man. Y'all kind of doing something cool over there too. But yeah, man. So we're here at the end of the podcast. We pretty much ran down everything we could about the doc. So before we get out of here, man, you know, I guess like let's do a little podcast talk. Let's do a little shop talk.
Okay.
So what's some podcasts that are in your feed right now that you're really enjoying?
The one in particular, I rock with this. I've been rocking with them since the beginning. Brilliant Idiots.
Okay.
I think it's funny. It's like just that dynamic, and it's nice little comic relief during the week. And you're like, you know, that's one I listen to. And the one I listen to, I normally, because I'm really into the draft. It was a thing called First Draft when it was with Todd McShay and Mel Kiper. So that was one that I really was into heavy. The Ringer, I think The Ringer's pretty good. With Bill Simmons.
Guy.
Yeah, Bill Simmons I love Bill Simmons. Like Bill Simmons, I remember even back when he was with Ian and him in jailing. Like they used to like those NFL previews they used to do. So I follow him and I root for him because he gives guys like us opportunities. That's why I hate when people like try to hate him. Like, no, he used to be an outsider. Like, he's giving guys like us that opportunity. He's like, you know, he's essentially like our prototype of somebody who we really need to look up to and observe.
Right. And I'm right there with you. I am a big Bill Simmons Ringer supporter.
Yeah.
You know, they call him the Pod Father.
Right.
You know, I have really been following in Bill's footsteps for a long time because I could see what he was trying to do from jump. And I tried to get people on the train with me, and I was showing them, it's like, hey, this dude has a podcast, and Subway is the main sponsor. Like, I don't know why Subway, but somebody is paying to have their name on this podcast.
Right.
So I feel like the money is coming because this is an ESPN product. So,
right.
And, you know, the thing about it was, little did I know, they was already doing it. Adam Carolla was out there. I'm trying to think. Joe Rogan was out there too, but it was the early days.
Yeah.
Man, podcasts have changed a whole lot since I know I started in 2013. Right. But I know a podcast, speaking of the Ringer, that I'm a big fan of is the Press Box. I don't know if you ever listen to that because it's not sports. But they basically talk about media. You know,
check that out.
And it's one of the smartest podcasts I ever listened to, honestly, because, you know, they talk a little bit about politics, but it's more about, you know, politics and media and kind of like breaking that down the way we break down sports. And it's done by Brian Curtis and David Shoemaker. Shoemaker, who does the Masked Man podcast, and Brian Curtis is the editor at large for The Ringer. And they come together and bring some real good stuff. And another podcast, while I got the time and I'm telling people about podcasts, listen to Still Processing with Wesley Morris. Oh gosh, I was gonna say her name was Janae, but it's not Janae, because I was gonna say her other name. I only know her name from Twitter. I'm about to look it up right now, but it's a New York Times podcast, and they both write for the culture section. And when I say that I haven't really found another podcast that can give me like that smart conversation, you know, and not even on anything like super particular, like just, I didn't even think about that. You know how you read something in the newspaper, like how people used to take in information and used to like discover stuff, or like, oh, I didn't even know that was like that. Right. It's like they're talking about culture and they're just breaking down, like, even like right now we in the pandemic, but they're breaking down like the Zoom culture and how the Zoom factor is making every celebrity a regular person, because they're all having to come in on Zoe's iPad, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like everybody
like
is super extra human because they're on these Zoom calls and everybody doesn't have makeup on, they don't look perfect, and you know, it couldn't feel more real. And I had never really thought about that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's funny that you bring it up, because now I look at it like, and it kind of go back to the beginning of the podcast, the NFL draft. What was crazy about it, like you said, it felt normal, because like normally with sports events, it makes you be like, oh, I want to be there. But a part of you was like, they just like us. They chilling at the crib.
Right.
It's crazy.
It very much so brought like the human experience to the forefront. Yeah. And so, you know, shout out to them, Still Processing, for kind of just like dropping the little nuggets. The only thing about it is they do 5 episodes like every 3-6 months. I can't even keep up when they drop them, but I mean, they're worth a listen. You can still go back to all of them. You know, they're like great articles. So that's my little recommendation for this week. Chris, I ain't gonna hold you up too much longer, man. I very much do appreciate the time you have given to the podcast. Let the people know where they can find you, however you want them to follow you, get in contact with you, if you want to be contacted.
Perfect. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Couch Coach Live. The podcast, Couch Coach Live, pretty much anywhere, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Weekly. So no later than Wednesday morning, it'll be out. And anything else, hit us up, couchcoachlive.com.
All right, man. That's a bet, man. And as always, you can find me at CL The Main Event everywhere else, but you can find this show at The Rundown South on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and therundown.com. If you want to be on the show, hit me up. CL, I was at therundown.com, but hit me at CL@contentelevated.com. I will drop that in the show notes if anybody actually needs it, but I need to make that a distinction, because I have had a few people hit me up and say they try to get in contact with me, and I had some little issues with my email, so I'm getting that worked out. So y'all just hit me up on there. Other than that, man, I really do appreciate you, Chris, for coming on again. I appreciate everybody out there watching. Anybody that's been waiting on me to drop a podcast for the last 9 months and I didn't deliver one, I'm sorry. We're going to do better, man. We pushing out there. Y'all stay safe, man. We out here. Peace.
Yeah.